What happens to a child when one parent is emotionally absent and the other is emotionally unpredictable? When love comes with conditions you can never fully understand. When the people who are supposed to protect you become the very thing your nervous system learns to fear. Today, we're talking about one of the most damaging childhood environments in psychology. And if you grew up in it, this might be the first time someone puts words to what you've always felt. In psychology, there's a specific type of childhood environment that creates some of the deepest emotional wounds. It's not always the most obvious form of trauma. There's no physical abuse. No neglect in the traditional sense, but the damage? It's profound. It's the combination of an emotionally absent father and an emotionally unstable mother. One parent is there, but not really there. Checked out. Distant. Unreachable. The other parent is present, but chaotic. Loving one moment, explosive the next. Warm, then cold. Close, then withdrawn. And between these two extremes, a child learns something devastating, that love is unpredictable. That safety doesn't exist. That the only way to survive is to become whoever they need you to be in that moment. Psychologists call this disorganized attachment. And it doesn't just affect childhood. It becomes the blueprint for how you see yourself, how you love, and how you move through the world for the rest of your life. Today we're going deep into this dynamic. We're talking about what it does to a child's brain, why it's so damaging, and how adults who grew up this way can finally start to heal. If this sounds uncomfortably familiar, stay with me. You're not alone. And you're not broken. Let's start by understanding the dynamic. On one side, you have the emotionally absent father. He's physically there, maybe. He provides, he goes to work. He sits at the dinner table. But emotionally, he's a ghost. He doesn't ask how you're feeling. He doesn't engage, he doesn't see you, not really. And when you try to reach for connection, you're met with silence, deflection, or coldness. So you learn, Dad is unreachable. Love from him is something you have to earn, and even then, it never quite comes. On the other side, you have the emotionally unstable mother. She loves you, you know she does, but her love is inconsistent. One day, she's warm, affectionate, present. The next day, she's yelling, crying, or shutting down completely. Her moods swing unpredictably. You never know which version of her you're going to get. So you learn, Mom is unpredictable. Love from her feels dangerous because it can turn into anger, sadness, or withdrawal at any moment. And here's where the real damage happens. Because children need two things to develop a healthy sense of self: safety and consistency. And in this environment, they get neither. One parent offers no emotional connection at all. The other offers connection, but it's laced with fear and unpredictability. So what does the child do? They adapt, they shapeshift. They learn to read the room, study facial expressions, monitor tone of voice, shrink their personality, suppress their needs all to avoid triggering the next storm. They become hypervigilant, anxious, obsessed with control. Because if they can just be good enough, small enough, helpful enough, maybe they'll finally feel safe. But they never do. Now let's talk about what this does to a developing brain. When a child grows up in this environment, their nervous system doesn't learn to regulate. It learns to survive. Here's why. The brain develops based on patterns. And the pattern this child experiences is chaos. Love is inconsistent. Safety is conditional. The people who are supposed to be their secure base, the ones they turn to for comfort, are also the ones causing them stress. This creates what's called disorganized attachment. In healthy attachment, a child learns, when I'm scared, I can go to my parent and they'll comfort me. The world is safe. I am safe. In disorganized attachment, the child learns, when I'm scared, the person I need is also the person I'm afraid of. I don't know if they'll comfort me or hurt me. I can't trust anyone, not even myself. So the child's nervous system stays in a constant state of hyperarousal. Their amygdala, the brain's fear center, is always on high alert. Their stress hormones stay elevated. And their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation and self-awareness, doesn't develop properly. They learn to live in survival mode, constantly scanning for danger, constantly adjusting, constantly performing. And here's the heartbreaking part. They lose themselves in the process. Because when you're always watching, always adapting, always trying to be whoever keeps the peace, you never get to figure out who you actually are. Fast forward to adulthood. The chaos has ended, maybe. The parents are older, calmer, or out of the picture entirely. But the impact, it's still there. Adults who grew up in this environment often describe feeling like they're two people. The version they show the world competent, together, high-functioning. And the version they feel inside anxious, empty, disconnected, like they're constantly on the edge of falling apart. Here's what this looks like in real life, in relationships. They crave intimacy but fear it at the same time. They get close to someone and then panic and pull away. They're drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable because that's what feels familiar. Or they end up in relationships where they're constantly trying to fix or manage the other person's emotions just like they did as a child. With themselves, they struggle with self-worth. They don't know who they are outside of being useful, helpful, or needed. They feel like an imposter in their own life. They're hyper-aware of everyone else's feelings but completely disconnected from their own. With emotions, they're either numb or overwhelmed. No middle ground. They've spent so long suppressing their needs and feelings that they don't even know what they feel anymore. Or when emotions do come up, they flood the system because the person never learned how to process them safely. With control, they become obsessive about controlling their environment. Perfectionism, overthinking, people-pleasing. Because control was the only thing that gave them a sense of safety as a child. And here's the tragedy. They think they're broken. They think there's something wrong with them. But the truth is, there's nothing wrong with them. Their nervous system is doing exactly what it was trained to do: survive. So why is this particular dynamic so damaging? Why is it worse than just having one neglectful parent or one unpredictable parent? Because it creates a double bind. When both parents are absent or both are abusive, the reality is clear. It's terrible, but it's consistent. The child can at least make sense of it. But when one parent is emotionally absent and the other is emotionally unstable, the child is stuck between two incompatible realities. They can't escape to one parent for safety because neither parent is safe. One doesn't see them. The other sees them, but unpredictably. So the child learns that love itself is dangerous, that closeness means pain, that the only way to survive is to disappear. And because children are wired to attach, because they need their caregivers to survive, they don't reject their parents. They reject themselves. They learn, I must be the problem. If I could just be better, quieter, smarter, more helpful, then maybe I'd be loved consistently. Maybe I'd finally be safe. But that day never comes. Because the problem was never the child. The problem was the environment. So how do you heal from this? How do you undo years of shape-shifting, hypervigilance, and self-abandonment? The truth is, healing is possible. But it's not easy. Because it requires you to do the very thing your nervous system learned was dangerous. Feel, rest, trust. Step 1. Understand that your nervous system was right. You weren't crazy. You weren't too sensitive. Your hypervigilance, your people-pleasing, your fear of intimacy, it all made sense. Your nervous system was doing its job. It kept you safe in an environment that wasn't safe. The first step is recognizing that. Step 2. Learn to regulate your nervous system. This means teaching your body that it's safe now. Somatic therapy, breath work, mindfulness, movement, anything that helps you reconnect with your body and calm your stress response. You have to show your nervous system that the chaos is over. Step 3. Grieve the childhood you didn't have. You deserved consistent love. You deserved emotional safety. You deserved to be seen, and you didn't get it. That's not your fault, but you do have to grieve it. Because you can't heal what you don't acknowledge. Step 4. Reclaim your identity. You spent your whole childhood being whoever you needed to be to survive. Now you get to figure out who you actually are. What do you like? What do you need? What do you feel? This is the hardest part because it requires letting go of the performance, but it's also the most important. Step 5. Find safe relationships. Healing happens in connection. You need people who are emotionally consistent, who see you, who don't punish you for having needs. Therapy is a good place to start. So are support groups. So are friendships with people who are securely attached. You didn't learn how to love safely as a child. But you can learn now. If you grew up with an emotionally absent father and an emotionally unstable mother, I want you to hear this. You were not the problem. You never were. You were a child trying to survive in an environment where love felt like a minefield. And you did what you had to do. You adapted. You performed. You disappeared. But you don't have to do that anymore. You get to take up space now. You get to feel now. You get to be yourself now. Not the version that keeps the peace. Not the version that earns love. The real you. And yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel scary. Because your nervous system still thinks that being yourself is dangerous. But I promise you, it's not. You're safe now. And the people who truly love you, they'll love the real you, not the performance. If this resonated with you, comment relatable below. Share this with someone who grew up too fast. Let's stop carrying this alone. Thanks for being here. You're not broken. You're healing. And that's one of the bravest things you can do.